My beloved child, stop for just a heartbeat, because the next few moments may unlock a truth that has been quietly moving toward you long before you ever noticed it. There are seasons when life appears completely ordinary, when every sunrise feels like a copy of the one before it. Yet beneath that calm surface, invisible pieces are shifting into place. Today is one of those moments. Something is approaching not with noise, not with chaos, but with purpose. And the image placed before you is simple yet unforgettable: a tall man is on his way. Do not rush to imagine only a person. Sometimes destiny introduces itself through a symbol before it becomes reality. Height represents vision. It represents someone who can see beyond the horizon you have been staring at. What if this tall figure is carrying a perspective you have needed for years? What if the next conversation you have changes the direction of your future more than the last 1,000 you have had? Stay a little longer, because this is where the story begins. There have been moments when you questioned whether anyone truly understood the path you were walking. You smiled while carrying silent questions. You kept moving even when your confidence felt smaller than your dreams. Yet every experience was quietly preparing you to recognize what is coming. Imagine standing at the edge of a doorway without realizing that someone is already walking toward it from the other side. You cannot hear the footsteps yet, but they exist. Every choice you made, every lesson you learned, every delay that tested your patience has been creating the exact timing for this encounter. The remarkable part is not that someone is coming. The remarkable part is that you are finally becoming the person capable of recognizing the opportunity when it arrives. Pause for a second and ask yourself something deeper. What if the greatest opportunities never announce themselves with flashing lights? What if they arrive disguised as ordinary conversations, unexpected meetings, or quiet moments that almost seem too small to matter? That is why this message cannot be ignored. The tall man symbolizes elevation not only in appearance, but in mindset, confidence, and purpose. He represents the reminder that your future cannot be built with yesterday's perspective. Someone with a broader vision often appears when your own vision is ready to expand. This is not about depending on another person. It is about realizing that life sometimes sends mirrors instead of maps. Through another soul, another idea, another encounter, you suddenly recognize possibilities that had been standing beside you all along. Look closely at your recent days. Have you noticed unusual coincidences? Familiar ideas returning in unexpected ways? Certain thoughts refusing to leave your mind? These are not interruptions. They are invitations. Every meaningful transformation begins long before the visible breakthrough. Seeds grow beneath the surface before anyone celebrates the harvest. In the same way, something has already started moving in your favor. You simply have not seen the entire picture yet. Wait until the final moment, because the pieces fit together only when you stop trying to force them. Sometimes patience is not waiting for destiny, it is allowing destiny enough room to reveal itself naturally. Now imagine this scene. A path stretches far into the distance. At first it appears empty. Then, almost unnoticed, a single figure begins walking toward you. Every step seems ordinary, yet every step quietly changes the distance between where you are and where your future begins. That is the mystery hidden inside today's message. You may think nothing is happening because change often moves silently before it becomes undeniable. But silence is not absence. Silence is preparation. Before you go, hear this carefully. When the moment finally arrives, it will feel strangely familiar, as though your heart had been expecting it long before your mind understood why. And when you look back, you will realize this message was never about predicting your future, it was about preparing your awareness to recognize it the instant it appears. A quiet question before we continue: what if the most important moment of your story doesn't begin with a dramatic event, but with a single decision to notice what everyone else overlooks? Keep listening, because the next piece changes everything. The image of the tall man is becoming clearer now, yet the greatest revelation is not who he is, it is why his arrival happens at this exact point in your journey. Timing has its own language. It never rushes, yet it never arrives late. The moments that reshape your life often appear only after you have gathered the wisdom to understand them. For a long time, you may have believed that progress should always be loud. Bigger victories. Bigger announcements. Bigger signs. But true transformation usually whispers before it speaks. Think about the sunrise. It doesn't explode into the sky all at once. Darkness slowly gives way to light until suddenly you realize the world has completely changed. Your path is unfolding the same way. The tall man represents a season where clarity replaces confusion, where confidence quietly replaces doubt, and where purpose begins to outweigh hesitation. Stay a little longer, because there's another layer hidden beneath this symbol. Height is not only about seeing farther, it is about standing above fear without pretending fear never existed. Every challenge you faced has been stretching your perspective. You thought you were simply surviving difficult seasons, but in reality, you were learning how to look beyond temporary obstacles. That lesson cannot be rushed. Only someone who has walked through uncertainty can truly recognize the value of clear direction. Picture yourself standing at a crossroads. One path feels familiar because you've walked it many times before. The other seems uncertain, yet something about it keeps drawing your attention. Now imagine that someone approaches not to choose for you, but to remind you that your future has always belonged to your own courage. That is the deeper meaning behind today's message. The arrival isn't meant to replace your strength. It awakens it. Sometimes another person's confidence simply reminds you of the confidence that has been quietly waiting inside you all along. Have you noticed how certain opportunities appear only after you've stopped chasing them? It's almost as though life waits for your heart to become steady before opening the next door. That's because growth isn't measured by how quickly you arrive. It's measured by who you've become while walking. The tall man symbolizes that next chapter, a chapter where wisdom matters more than speed, where vision matters more than comfort, and where quiet certainty becomes stronger than endless questions. And here's something worth holding on to. Not every meaningful connection begins with instant recognition. Some people enter your story gently, almost unnoticed. Their words seem simple. Their presence feels natural. Yet days later, you realize they shifted the direction of your thinking forever. Could that be what is approaching now? Could the next conversation, the next encounter, or the next unexpected moment become the turning point you've been preparing for without even realizing it? If this message is speaking to something deep within you, let it travel beyond this moment. Share it with someone who may also need a reminder that hope often arrives quietly. And if these words resonate with your journey, leave a comment about what new chapter you believe you're stepping into. If you'd like to keep exploring these moments of purpose and possibility together, consider subscribing so we can continue this path side by side. Before this chapter closes, remember one thing. The distance between you and your next breakthrough may be far smaller than it appears. The footsteps are getting closer. The horizon is becoming clearer. And in the next part, you'll discover the unexpected sign that reveals you're already much nearer to this life-changing encounter than you've ever imagined. One final thought before the next revelation unfolds. Have you ever noticed that the greatest turning points often arrive disguised as completely ordinary days? That's why this moment matters. You may believe you're simply listening to another story, but what if this story has quietly been preparing you to recognize something standing right in front of you? Stay with me, because the next insight connects every piece we've uncovered so far. The tall man is no longer just a symbol of someone approaching. He represents the arrival of a higher perspective into your life. Every meaningful journey reaches a point where the old way of thinking can no longer carry you forward. That moment has a strange feeling. You begin to outgrow familiar patterns. Conversations that once excited you become too small. Dreams that once felt impossible suddenly begin to feel achievable. Nothing outside has fully changed yet, but everything inside has started shifting. That inner transformation is often the first sign that destiny is already moving. Think about the doors you've seen close over the past months. At the time, they may have looked like disappointments. You wondered why certain opportunities disappeared. You questioned why some plans never unfolded the way you expected. Yet imagine if every closed door was quietly guiding you toward a hallway you hadn't noticed before. Sometimes life removes distractions so your attention can finally settle on what truly belongs in your future. The path ahead becomes visible only when the unnecessary fades into the background. Now imagine this scene. The road stretches forward beneath a peaceful sky. In the distance, the tall figure continues walking, not hurried, not delayed, but perfectly in step with the timing of your own growth. Every step forward represents preparation. Every passing moment brings greater clarity. The remarkable truth is this: the closer that figure comes, the more confident you become as well. Why? Because this journey has never been about waiting for someone else to complete your story. It has always been about becoming ready to write the next chapter with greater wisdom, greater courage, and greater purpose. Ask yourself something powerful. What if the opportunity you've been hoping for has already begun taking shape behind the scenes? What if today's small decision, today's unexpected conversation, or today's simple act of faith becomes the foundation for tomorrow's breakthrough? Great transformations rarely begin with applause. They begin with awareness. The people who experience extraordinary change are often the ones who notice the quiet moments everyone else overlooks. Wait just a little longer, because one final piece deserves your attention. The message isn't asking you to search everywhere. It's asking you to stay present. The future has a remarkable way of revealing itself to those who remain open instead of anxious. Trust the process. Continue building your character. Continue protecting your peace. Continue moving with intention even when the destination isn't fully visible. Every step you take today becomes part of the bridge leading toward tomorrow. And when the moment finally arrives, when the encounter, the opportunity, or the life-changing conversation stands before you, you won't need anyone to convince you that it's significant. You'll recognize it immediately. Not because it appeared with noise, but because your heart has been quietly preparing for it all along. That's the hidden truth behind today's title. The tall man isn't simply on his way, your next season is. And once that season begins, you'll look back at this very moment and realize it wasn't a coincidence that you were here. It was preparation for everything that comes next. Before this chapter fades into the next, hold your attention here for a little while longer, because what you are about to hear explains why everything has felt strangely different lately. Have you noticed it? The subtle feeling that life has been slowing you down in certain areas while quietly accelerating something you cannot yet see. Most people mistake that feeling for uncertainty. But those who have learned to observe instead of panic understand that unseen preparation often happens in silence. This is why today's message continues with such urgency. The tall man is closer now, not because the distance has suddenly disappeared, but because your awareness has finally begun catching up with your destiny. There is a powerful difference between waiting and preparing. Waiting simply counts the days. Preparing transforms the person. Every experience you've walked through recently has been shaping your ability to recognize what truly matters when the moment arrives. Think back to the conversations that didn't go as expected. The opportunities that slipped away. The plans that seemed perfectly designed, only to dissolve without explanation. At first they felt like endings. Now look again. What if each one quietly redirected your path? What if every delay protected you from choosing something that could never have carried you where you were meant to go? Imagine standing in a vast open field just before sunrise. The world appears still. Nothing seems to be happening. Yet beneath the surface, light is already traveling toward the horizon. The sun has begun its journey long before your eyes recognize it. Your future often works the same way. Long before the breakthrough becomes visible, countless invisible details begin aligning. Connections form. Circumstances shift. Hearts change. Ideas grow stronger. Confidence returns little by little. By the time you finally witness the result, the real work has already been happening for much longer than you realized. The tall man represents someone who walks with vision instead of distraction. Notice that he is not running. He is not chasing every passing opportunity. His pace is steady because he understands something many people forget. A meaningful destination never requires panic. It requires purpose. That is exactly what this season is trying to teach you. Stop measuring your progress against someone else's timeline. Stop believing that speed is always proof of success. The strongest foundations are rarely built in a hurry. Stay a little longer, because another mystery is about to unfold. Have you ever entered a room and immediately sensed that something important was about to happen, even though nothing unusual had occurred yet? That quiet intuition is one of life's greatest gifts. It speaks softly because truth never needs to compete for attention. Perhaps you've experienced moments recently where a familiar place suddenly felt different. Maybe certain dreams have become more vivid. Maybe new ideas continue returning no matter how often you try to ignore them. These aren't random interruptions. They are gentle invitations asking you to pay closer attention to the direction your life is beginning to take. Now picture this. The road ahead stretches farther than your eyes can reach. Along that road walks the tall man, not with arrogance, not with superiority, but with calm confidence. Every step he takes reflects patience. Every movement reminds you that genuine strength never needs to prove itself loudly. As he comes closer, something unexpected begins happening. The distance between both of you is shrinking, but so is the distance between who you are today and the person you are becoming. That is the true revelation. This story has never been encouraging you to wait for someone else to transform your future. Instead, it has been revealing that every step toward your own growth naturally attracts greater opportunities. When your perspective rises, your choices improve. When your choices improve, your path changes. And when your path changes, the people who belong in your next chapter naturally become part of your journey. Think carefully about this question. What if your greatest opportunity has already noticed you? Most people spend years wondering whether success, purpose, or meaningful connections will ever find them. But very few ask whether they themselves have become visible to those opportunities. Growth has a remarkable quality. It changes the way the world responds to you. The same person who once overlooked you may suddenly recognize your value. The same opportunity that once seemed impossible may suddenly feel within reach. Not because the world changed overnight, but because you quietly became someone prepared to receive what was always possible. Wait until the final moments of this message, because one last piece completes the picture. There is an invisible bridge between your present and your future. Every positive decision places another stone on that bridge. Every lesson learned strengthens it. Every moment of courage extends it farther. You may not see the entire structure today, but each thoughtful step carries you closer to the other side. The remarkable part is that the tall man continues walking from the opposite direction. While you build your side of the bridge, another part of your future is already moving toward you. Eventually, both journeys meet at exactly the right place. Nothing about that meeting will feel accidental. You will remember the quiet moments that prepared your heart. You will remember the days when nothing appeared to be changing. You will remember wondering whether your efforts mattered. Then suddenly, everything will make sense. The scattered pieces will form one complete picture. The unanswered questions will become meaningful lessons. The waiting will reveal itself as preparation instead of delay. Before this part comes to a close, hold on to one truth above all others. Never underestimate the power of steady progress. Dramatic moments may capture attention, but consistent growth changes lives. Continue choosing wisdom when confusion appears easier. Continue choosing hope when doubt becomes louder. Continue choosing patience when shortcuts seem tempting. Every decision shapes the person who will recognize tomorrow's opportunity without fear. Because the journey is no longer about searching everywhere for signs. The journey is about becoming the kind of person who can recognize extraordinary possibilities hidden inside ordinary moments. And as the horizon grows brighter with every passing step, remember this. The tall man has never represented urgency without purpose. He represents the arrival of a new season, a higher perspective, and a future that has been quietly approaching while you were becoming ready to receive it. In the next chapter, the final hidden message behind his arrival will be revealed, and you'll understand why this encounter could become the beginning of the most meaningful chapter your story has ever known.